Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Costain. Huw Evans from Three Pools Farm in Abergavenny in Wales recently visited the Welsh Government's Sustainable Farming Scheme Consultation Roadshow. Afterwards, he wrote an article which appears on the 8.9 website called Embrace the Canopy. I asked Huw why it is that he thinks that farmers in Wales should learn to love woodland.
Woodland has loads of functions and if designed correctly, can add to the productivity and profitability of a farming system. Some examples would be shelter in winter. You'll notice in the winter, livestock go and huddle by the hedge. Even if it's not got leaves on, it's providing shelter. In the summer, if you've got infield trees, you'll see all the livestock go and sit in the shade. Those health benefits are going to improve the productivity of those animals.
Huw, can you describe your own setup and tell us how much woodland you have on your farm?
So we use permaculture design here at Three Pools. This means it's quite a people-centric farming design. So starting from the house, next to the house, we've got the veg systems, a bit further away, more orchard systems. And then further away from that again, we've got the sheep and the cows moving in loops around the fields, while the pigs are moving through scrubby loops that connect different patches of woodland. So it's a mosaic around the farm. Having a mosaic across the landscape is quite important ecologically. On the farm, when we moved here, there was 13% woodland, and we planted an extra 4%. So we're now at 17% woodland. In terms of the subsidy is looking at canopy, not just total woodland. So you can find out how much woodland you've got quite easily. Working out your canopy is a bit more difficult because the canopy is looking at hedgerow trees and it is looking at infield trees. And they are actually very helpful from a production sort of view.
Now, you say that when you moved to the farm, there was already 13% woodland cover. Do you have a sense of how that previous farmer approached woodland and agriculture? Were they agroecological or mainstream in their approach?
He did some slightly odd things and some really good things. There's two patches of ancient woodland, and then I met the guy that worked with him to design the woodland planting that he did. So one of the things he did was planted a strip that runs up the hill and connects the two ancient woodlands. Connecting habitats is very important ecologically. For example, there's like one type of butterfly that it will fly 50 meters out of its habitat to look for a suitable habitat. And if it doesn't find it, it will fly 50 meters back, even if it was only 5 meters away from reaching suitable habitat. So linking habitats very important for stopping the islanding effect that stops species from spreading. This planting is also then a boundary on the farm, so it improves our biodiversity because it stops nose-to-nose contact with neighbouring livestock. Then other plantings he planted a woodland just north of the main farm area, so that stops our northerly winds. So there's benefits to that. It stops cooling of the house. It's also a visual barrier from the main road, and we run events. It's also a noise barrier from our nearest neighbours. So in permaculture, we talk about the idea of stacking functions. So a woodland can achieve many different things.
You talk about that 13% that existed when you arrived, which is already 3% above the new requirement, but then you decided to add more. Why did you do that? What's the purpose of the additional 4% of woodland?
Multifunctional, I've just talked about stacking functions. So one planting, we recently planted a vineyard, and so we planted a woodland just to the west of it, because our predominant wind is coming from the west. So it's acting as a shelter belt for the vineyard. Within that planting, we put a high concentration of willow. Two reasons. One is the theory that if you chip willow and put it under soft fruit, then as the salicylic acid vaporizes it, it stops mildew forming on the soft fruit. The other reason being I love feeding willow to livestock. anthelmintic properties. So it's a wormer. It's also very good at mineralizing cobalt, which we're very low in our soils here. The other woodland area we planted was on the northern edge, so we want to stop those northerly winds coming in and give more shelter to our livestock over winter.
Now, there's a lot of anger about the Welsh Government's proposed requirement for an increase to 10% of woodland on each farm. Where do you think that anger comes from?
I think that anger it's become focused in on the woodland, but it's bigger than that. There's a change to the subsidy system, and in an industry where the average age is relatively high, approaching retirement age, you're then asking an industry that's not ready for it to completely redesign their farming businesses. Why is it at woodland? Is because that's like a very simple thing to understand. It's clear that if you take this land that was once considered productive under the old labelling and make it unproductive according to the old labelling without fully explaining why it has value, is very easy to get angry at.
Your approach is to combine woodland and livestock. What are the key benefits of doing this?
The benefits to keeping livestock in and around woodland: shelter both from the sun and the wind. You can see your livestock hiding behind the hedge when it's bad weather. You can see the livestock hiding in the shade when it's sunny. Stress of either too hot or too cold is going to affect the animal's health. And if you can improve the animal's health and well-being, they're going to grow better. They're going to need fewer inputs to maintain condition. That's going to have production and profitability benefits. Then they're also going to be browsing on the leaves of the trees. That's going to provide trace elements. It's the equivalent of if you only ate one thing, or if you ate a diverse diet. You're going to be much healthier if you're eating a diverse diet.
Now, you're a farmer, but your land holding is quite diversified with events and glamping as well as livestock. Do you think that more farmers should be looking to diversify their income streams?
Diversifying your income stream is definitely an option. Each farm is completely different, so how it diversifies will be different. Agri-tourism is a massive opportunity, but there's a risk of that becoming oversaturated. There's a lot of craft producers now who are looking for space, and with the internet and remote working, there's also lots of opportunities there. With having woodland on farm, there's even forest schools, craft workshops, kind of stuff that make use of woodland. Bringing people onto land is a great way of seeing revenue come from a space. I talked about stacking functions earlier. Stacking function, even in a field, you can grow grass and you can have people come and spend time there, and that's double revenue from it.
That was Huw Evans from Three Pools Farm. More news on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back soon. Thanks for watching.